The outer slime coating. The body covering of a fish, unlike mammals, is made up of living cells, all the way to the most outer layer. A coating of slime covers the entire body, protecting it against disease and parasites. This layer also helps reduce friction as the fish moves along in the water or stands stationary, as well as makes the fish watertight. This is why there are rules in Germany on how to properly handle a fish, especially if you're going to release it, because you should not be touching the fish any more than is necessary in order to measure it, sex it, identify the species, and weigh it. If the fish is the wrong species for the season, as is the species is in a closed season, or it is too small, it must be released. So you must take all precautions necessary, or all precautions possible, in order not to damage this slime or coating on the fish's body. Here in Germany, even after hooking a fish, and or if you catch a fish and it is damaged, many waters require you to have a special fish antibiotic that you will treat where you hook the fish and any other damage that may have been found on the fish before releasing it. But again, remember, you can only do this if the fish is out of season, is listed specifically on the water permit as not being able to be kept, and or is too small. All other fish, once you've done your measurements and stuff, of course, get killed. You'll see a lot of British films. They'll have the fish laying on this, what they call an unhooking or landing mat, and they'll stroke the fish. Oh, beautiful fish. And they'll splash water over the fish and all of this. No, no, no. You are damaging this slime coating of the fish. This is why you will normally bring the fish out. Some places do not even allow you to have a releasing mat or unhooking mat because it shows an intent to catch and release. I still use one, just personally, because if I bring a fish out and it's too small, then I know I can release it properly with the minimum amount of damage. This also can be done with a properly rubberized fishing net, but care must be taken. You've got to bring the fish out, lay it down, handle the fish the least amount as possible until you've identified the species, unhook the fish, and measured it. If the fish is long enough to keep and so on, then you of course would follow through with killing and keeping the fish. You could take photos at that point or whatever. If not, if that fish is being released, you should handle it the least amount possible and ensure the least amount of trauma, shock, and so on to the fish. That means you don't pick it up and throw it back in the water. You don't hold it in your hands and let it slide out of your hands into the water. All of these will cause trauma to the fish, shock to the fish, and will damage the outer coating of the fish. Don't be caught doing this. You will get into trouble. The fish skin. Color cells on the fish's skin controls the shade, color, and patterns we see in fish display. Color cells, rented lips. Colored cells in the fish's skin controls the shade, color, and patterns we see fish display. The skin of some species as well can hold venom and other mucus glands, as well as even electrical creating and discharging organs or receptacles. Photophores photophores in the skin of some fish can also create or produce a form of photoluminescence. Gills. In order to extract oxygen from the water around them, fish have gills. The intake of oxygen and the simultaneous disposal of carbon dioxide, which is produced during this process by their cells, is carried out in these structures. The gills absorb oxygen and dispose of carbon dioxide. The gills must come into direct contact with the water for this process to occur, and as such are very susceptible to damage in many forms. If you're releasing a fish, you shouldn't be sticking your hands up underneath those gill covers. Okay, until you know that you're not going to release that fish, you should take all precautions, the same as with the skin coatings, not to damage those gills. I know some people want you to stick your fingers up inside of a pike's gills to grab a hold to it and so on. No, until you know that that fish is big enough to keep, you take all precautions necessary, even though it may be bothersome for you, not to damage that fish's skin, slime coatings, and or gills. Most fish you deal with will have 4 pairs of gills. This means 4 gills, 2 pair on each side of its head, so a total of 4 pairs. So it has 4 gills on one side, 4 gills on the other. They come in pairs. 2 and 2 is 4 pairs. The basic answer most considered correct on this, okay, other fish species can have as little as 3. Most shark species have 6, with there being a 7-gill shark species documented as well. But the basic answer most considered correct on this issue would be a fish has 4 pairs of gills, 2 on each side of its head. Water taken in through the mouth is then forced across the feather gill filaments and out through the gill chamber back into the surrounding water. The amount of oxygen that is extracted in this method by the fish depends upon its environmental adaptations, metabolic rate, and the surrounding water's temperature. The surrounding water's temperature can also dictate how much oxygen that water can hold. Fish such as trout thrive best in clear, cold-flowing waters with high oxygen content, while carp, as an example, usually do best in muddy, calmer, or still waters with a lower oxygen content. It don't mean that the carp couldn't live in clear water with a higher oxygen, but again, at that point, you've got to look at the water temperature. Air bladder. Most fish have an air bladder, also called a gas or swim bladder. This is typically laying below the kidney, which is like here, up here. This is the kidney. A carp has 2 air bladders above the kidney or below the kidney. A trout, for instance, has 1 air bladder. The air bladder acts as a hydrostatic or flotation organ, adjusting the weight of the fish by equalizing its water displacement, so it will neither rise nor sink beyond its area of adaptation usually, unless it decides it wants to go there. Then of course it can swim up, down, wherever. One species of note that does not have an air bladder is the miller's thumb fish. Some species of fish as well have a 2-chambered air bladder, enabling them to assume a slanted position when desired, making it easier and more advantageous for them to feed off of the bottom. These walls of the partitioned air bladder vary in thickness. As such, respond differently to exterior pressure changes. The posterior or rear part is normally larger, but has a thinner wall than the anterior forward bladder, which is normally smaller in size but has a thicker wall lining. As atmospheric pressure falls, gas fills the posterior chamber more rapidly. The posterior of the fish becomes lighter than the anterior end and thus forms a nose-down angle feeding position. High barometric pressure prevailing during fair weather apparently causes the bladder to contract. This, of course, less gas increases the fish's body weight. The fish will then sink, and prospects for a good catch of predatory species can be reduced while placing bottom-feeding fish closer to their primary food sources, so they may actually be feeding more actively. Falling barometric pressure increases the chances of a good catch for predatory fish as it expands, thus decreasing the fish's weight and causing it to rise. This can cause deeper bottom-feeding fish to move into more shallow areas and is notable during warmer summer days where at times even carp can be seen swimming and feeding off the top of the water or in very shallow areas. They have trouble reaching those deeper bottoms. They'll move into the shallower areas, so the bottom comes up to meet them. Okay?